What is going on, everyone? So, I know I've been a little lackadaisical with the, decoding or, uncovering and breaking Undercover Billionaire, the TV show, because, well, let's just face it, the media will have you believe that, well, that was done just like that. But let me give you some insight on my journey. So, this might be a little bit quick because I missed a couple episodes, so I want to get a couple videos out there so that you guys can, not only hear a couple things from me, but also get to see some more stuff. So I went to Charlotte where, it's a little corrupt down there, but I went to the Mazda dealership down there and it was crazy. This guy that looked like, what's his name? Luigi Mangiano, whatever, comes out and he's like, oh, well, you got to get all these things done to your car, blah, 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 blah. Sounded like Charlie Brown and everybody. And I was like, oh, really? So you're a mechanic, okay? Or you spoke to the mechanic. Can I speak to him? And he was like, oh, no, but it's just something you need to get done. Now, if that doesn't sound sketchy to you, I don't know what is. When's the last time you went to a dealership where you're not allowed to speak to the mechanic? So thank God I had a dad that taught me about cars. And I, took auto tech, so on and so forth. So I did learn about cars in school formally and as well in the street. So, he told me a couple things. So I checked up, I got the belt changed and all that, because it was just hard to lift the engine without a bay. And so, as I'm former military, and on base we had access to a bay where we could work on our own cars. So we were able to do stuff like that. Now, if you've seen other videos of mine where I talk about my past in the military, I could tell my mother till she's blue in the face of the things that I did, but she'll just say things like, oh, Michael, that's stealing valor, so on and so forth, without understanding what it is that she's saying. So I love her, but just neglect what she says because, well, or should I say, forget what she says because she will just say almost anything to try to trigger an emotion. Because if you're trying to, piss somebody off, just say something negative, right? Anyways, so this all happens as I'm trying to build everything. So it put me in a setback, right? So roughly right around $800, give or take, because, well, the stuff that I had to get replaced added up, plus maintenance work, plus gas and everything else will come around to around $800. So I fell a little bit behind on a couple things, etc. Now, one of the things they don't tell you in Undercover Billionaire is that, well, their truck that they got or the vehicle that they got was paid off. It's not like they had to pay that bill. So they neglected that from the media show. And then, of course, when it comes to the other stuff, you have to think, well, why would you have all this expensive camera equipment if, they're doing a documentary on something else? Better yet, why are you saying that they're filming a documentary on you and everything else? That's not going to put people psychologically in a natural mindset, right? Because in magic, if you know my background, things have to look natural. And if it doesn't look natural and it's unrealistic, well, then it's unprobabilistic that show is, well, fact. Right? Because you have what? A red camera, so on and so forth. That camera that they were using, if it's a red camera, costs anywhere between $10,000 to $30,000. And anybody that knows about camera equipment knows that camera costs about that much. So now you have that plus a boom mic and everything else, which meant that the show was fictitious, which means you cannot believe everything that you see in the media, right? Because they're playing psychological games. Now, let's get into it even further, right? So I'm out here and I had to get out of Charlotte. I ended up going somewhere else. Thankfully, the job that I have, like remote work, I could work wherever there's Wi-Fi and I could work almost anywhere that I need to, right? So granted, I still got some other things that I have to do, but I do now have to come up with the funds that I just put into the car, so on and so forth. Now, in the show, they wasted money on like hotels. If you saw season 2, they bought other stuff. Glenn actually went to the hospital because he was a cancer survivor and his cancer came back. Reminds me of this guy named Richard Reyes that I worked with, where he was a cancer survivor, so on and so forth. And he has this Operation Blue Bag or Positive Vibes or whatever the case may be. And, it's just slightly comical to me because, well, they make it to look like there's a happy ending to every story. But if there is a happy ending to every story, then why isn't everybody an entrepreneur? It's kind of like what they tell us when we go into the Marines, right? If everybody could do it, then everybody would do it, right? But they don't, right? I guess that's why it's called the few and the proud, not the few and the prideful. You know, there's a difference. And before somebody says, oh, you're going to get prideful, you have pride, you have ego, this, that, and the third, go through the training, go through the hardship, go through all the BS, and then tell me how you feel when you get out. You feel a lot different. I can tell you that right now. And this goes for anybody that knocks on military service, okay? So, you know, as I said before, I got to see behind the curtain, and I've been in marketing and I've done magic for over, well, more than 20 years, and I kind of became like a historian over time, right? I started getting more into the philosophies, the psychology, showmanship, theater, etc., and how everything comes about, right? Now, when you're looking at Undercover Billionaire, yeah, they were making these things seem almost perfect, right? They magically had St. Patty's Day show up in season 1. They magically, hold on one second. My people right there, you heard the music? Anyways, by the way, we got a new pope, and he speaks Spanish. Go figure. So, anyways, so check this out. So in Undercover Billionaire season 1, it was what, St. Patty's Day, and these events were going on, and it made it look really simple, right? However, I went to do some of the tactics, and granted, I studied their methods and everything like that. It didn't pan out the same way, which is perfectly fine because not everybody's situation is the same. However, if you noticed in the TV show, in both seasons, anything that they tried ended up being successful. Why was that? Was it camera magic, as they say? Or if you were performing on stage as a magician, they call it black art, so on and so forth, right? And so you have to understand, you know, that when you're trying to build yourself up, you know, you got to utilize everything at hand. Go to the library, use AI, fact check, etc. If you're using AI, make sure that you ask it to provide you resources as to where it got the information from, because I don't know if you've seen this lately, but there's a little disclaimer that says that AI may have hallucinations, right? Well, I guess AI must be schizophrenic and has AI fucking hallucinations now, so on and so forth. If the medical community could charge everybody that built and worked on AI, so on and so forth, they would make boatloads of cash because, well, they just invested, what was it, $500 million into it, or if not more than that, which could definitely feed everybody in the mental health space since they're hungry for money, so on and so forth, right? So it's one of those things, like in the military, we would joke around and be like, oh, the itis, so on and so forth. Just put itis at the end of it, right? Now, if you spoke to my mother, she would try to correct you scientifically because she's very logical. And so she'd be like, oh, well, that has to deal with this. It's a joke. It's also the truth said in jest. However, not many people are that creative to understand. So if you don't understand the vocabulary or what's going on, then you're just going to get sucked in. By the way, check it out. They're having a party over here. That's a nice little business to have with everybody hanging out, right? And so, you know, these are the things and different ideas that I get as I walk around. What can I do? That guy's getting freaking exercise right now, towing everybody around. Yeah, he has a little bit of assistance because as you get to drink alcohol while you're riding in that little cart right there, they're pedaling and assisting. But he's completely sober. He's working on his fitness, so on and so forth. So he doesn't have to go to the gym. He could work a hell of a lot harder than most people, make some money because he probably charges, what, $20 a pop, and it comes with a couple beers. And then you have what, let's say 8 to 10 riders. You do that for what, 20-30 minutes. People are going to get tired. They're going to want to go somewhere else. So that's another business idea for you guys. Now, if you don't have a business idea, you can utilize Google's Gemini and ChatGPT to ask it about, well, what businesses you can get into depending on your skills. All you have to do is tell it what skills you have, right? Maybe you're good at some other things. Maybe you're good, I don't know, in law enforcement. We have the Department of Justice right here. That's the education building. And, you know, maybe you can freelance. Maybe you can do a small class if you're an attorney or lawyer, right? Have an online education class that creates supplemental income because, well, cases don't come every day, and teach people about basic law to keep their ass out of trouble, right? So these are just little commonalities that I see between other avenues and ways people can make money utilizing the skills that they already have. Now, granted, not everybody has that ability, so I wanted to do this in order to show you what other things are possible, right? So as I said before, I drive a taxi, so on and so forth. I'm able to move around. I'm able to network. I'm able to meet new people, so on and so forth, get to know the area, the lay of the land, where I would want to actually establish a business, get a feel for the area. In business, there's a term called reading the room. Now, if you're trying to open a business, let's say, there's a building for sale, so on and so forth, and you want to purchase that building, excuse me, and you want to purchase that building, well, you need to read the area. You have to read the room, right? You have to know the people in the area that are going to come to your business. Maybe it's a bar, maybe it's a restaurant, so on and so forth. But you have to get an idea, right? Because if you put a bar in a place where nobody drinks, you're not going to make money, right? This is called market research, right? However, most people don't do market research because, one, they've never been introduced to marketing or been introduced to business in general, so they don't understand market research. They understand the term research, but what goes into market research, right? So these are some things that I wanted to get to you, so forgive me for being a little late on the videos, but I wanted to update you because I had some things to fix, and I had some stuff to process through as far as like, what am I going to do next? How am I going to make the money? So on and so forth. Because, granted, I've been applying to jobs. It's not like everybody's saying yes. Like in the TV show, where was it, season 2, where the chick managed to magically get a job, etc., and then the other one managed to pitch her little juice thing. People have to do certain things to get in the positions that they're in. So think about that. But before you do, make sure you have a tight circle. And if you haven't seen class or any of my other videos on finding freedom, please go check it out in the channel. I promise you it will change your life. If it doesn't, it's free. Don't like me, don't subscribe. Till next time or the next episode. Peace.